Opposition parties have moved to impeach South Korea's president after a short-lived declaration of martial law. The president imposed martial law yesterday out of frustration with the opposition, but then reversed course hours later after lawmakers voted to reject the move. South Korea is a vital U.S. ally in the region, with more than 28,000 American troops stationed at bases throughout the country. And a Southern California man is under arrest, accused of being a North Korean operative.
Yeah, this story, when it broke yesterday, was crazy, right? He's accused of shipping military weapons and equipment to the regime. KCAL News reporter Rick Montanez is live in Ontario. And Rick, this is the newest part of the story that I can't believe, the man's confession to being part of the sophisticated scheme.
Right, Jamie Rudabay, even neighbors here in Ontario are stunned by all of this. According to court documents, that man admitted to the FBI that he was, quote, good at smuggling. The home behind us here across the street, you'll see it with that white van in the driveway, that was searched several times by federal investigators as they continue working this case here on Cornwall Street in Ontario. We have video of the man being arrested. We can show you, captured on a neighbor's home security camera. 41-year-old Shenhua Wen, a Chinese national, the U.S. Attorney's Office says Wen admitted to buying and shipping guns and ammunition overseas for the intention of helping North Korea with a, quote, surprise attack on South Korea, a U.S. ally. The FBI seized about 50,000 rounds of ammunition from Wen's car. Investigators say 2 years ago he was contacted by North Koreans living in China about buying and shipping the guns and ammunition from the U.S. They say he used money given to him by the North Korean officials to buy a business, which was a federal firearms licensee, and paid $150,000 for a license in the state of Texas. They say he would drive the weapons from there here to Ontario before shipping them from the port of Long Beach. Neighbors say this is a wild case.
I realize, they have crazy people living around us.
It makes us sleep better at night, though, too, knowing that these people are arrested and being taken care of.
The North Korean officials sent Mr. Wen at least $2 million to pay for obtaining these materials and also to pay for the shipping costs.
In August, federal investigators say they seized a device used to detect chemical threats and a tool that can detect surveillance devices. Prosecutors say Wen first came to the U.S. on a student visa in 2012, but stayed after it expired. He is facing up to 20 years in federal prison, and he should be arraigned sometime in the next few weeks. Reporting live in Ontario, Rick Montanez, KCAL News.
Well, joining us now for further discussion on both the Chinese national Rick was just talking about and South Korea's martial law implementation and then reversal is Bishop Garrison of the Intelligence and National Security Alliance. Thank you so much for being here this morning to sort through both of these. I want to start with the complaint that says that Wen bought a federal firearm license. Can we talk about how was he able to obtain one if he wasn't in this country legally?
Thank you for having me, and good morning. And that's a great question that federal investigators are going to need to get to the bottom of, to be quite frank. Not only was he overstaying on a 2012 student visa, but he had also been ordered out of the country again in 2018 and was arrested in 2021, connected again to his illegal immigrant status. So there are a lot of questions here and a lot of things that should not have taken place given our systems between DHS and the State Department that someone really has to get to the bottom of, whether that comes from a congressional inquiry or whether that comes from the White House itself. It needs to be investigated thoroughly.
Yeah, and then speaking of things that should not have occurred, he was also allegedly using the port here in Southern California to ship out those weapons, transferring them from Texas to California. Is this speaking to a larger issue that we might not realize how common it is?
Yeah, I think both parts of this is. Look, a big part of the issue with illegal immigration, quite frankly, tends to be student visas because of the way the systems are designed and developed and the connections you have between the State Department, between DHS, and just the complexity of the program. You end up having a lot of individuals who unfortunately have the opportunity often to stay beyond their time here, or some, in many cases, don't even realize that they've necessarily overstayed until removal processes begin. So that's part one of this. Part two is a question again about how these shipments were actually made. What type of shipping containers? What processes through Customs and Border Patrol did they actually go through? Were they in annexes? Were they? How exactly were they transported into that country without being thoroughly vetted before they left? Or how was he actually going through the rigmarole of finding ways to actually cover exactly what he was saying? And just from my notes, I look and see that he had 50,000 rounds. He had parts for military grade drones. He had weapons of various kinds. So there are a lot of questions here that really need to be answered.
I don't know if I feel better or worse that someone of your magnitude is also wondering how all of this happened.
Yeah,
but
I mean, well, and that's to say, though, I do understand the complexity and the pressures that a lot of our dedicated federal agents are under, but these are the types of issues that really can help bring about much greater risk. If we're talking about shipments overseas right now, but what if we were talking about an individual using these types of weapons here on American soil?
No,
so there are a lot
absolutely.
of questions here.
yeah, I do want to switch gears to South Korea while we still have you. Do you have a better understanding why the South Korean president declared a martial law? You know, this has erupted into just political chaos in that country.
I mean, frankly, right now, the news coming out of South Korea has been hazy at best. He said that there were anti-state forces at play that were continuing to threaten the constitutional safety or the sovereignty of the nation. So we're still trying to figure out more about this. The State Department yesterday didn't have a great deal of information at the time. A lot of this we're seeing roll out in real time. I know a lot of your viewers are going to have to keep clicking refresh on whatever web browser they're using as we're continuing to see more information. Right before I came on, their defense minister or defense secretary submitted his potential resignation. Has not been accepted yet, I don't believe. But you also see a positive in this, that the rebuke from not only the opposition party, but President Yoon's party from Parliament. They voted 190 to nothing to stop this. And you see members of his own cabinet that are now officially saying that they regret going along with this. And as I said, the defense minister saying that they're going to step down as well. So a lot of moving parts here. We're going to hear more about it, but it's both it has its pros and its cons when it comes to this type of news.
Yeah, absolutely. At least the system, the checks on the power seem to have worked.
Right.
So this
Absolutely.
martial law declaration, it was short-lived, of course, but you just said this story isn't going anywhere. What do you think happens in the long term? Do you see the president stepping down, now facing impeachment? And what is the potential for more unrest?
Well, I think the first part of this is the president will be impeached. And I think there is, given the totality of the situation and the amount of rebuke he's had here, the amount of pushback he's received from both sides of the aisle, it's likely that you're going to see the impeachment process play out with potentially his removal from power. So that's going to be the first part. The second part is, look, this happened literally in the middle of the night, and you still had a lot of the citizens coming out protesting, all ages, all backgrounds, that they absolutely did not want to see their state fall back into any type of authoritarianism. They experienced a military dictatorship back in the 1980s. We saw in 1980 200 people killed, mostly students, when special forces were sent to stop these types of protests. They don't want to go back to that. The world doesn't want to see them go back to that. So I think you're going to see a lot of movement towards unification, towards stability, and that may very well include and arguably should include Yoon stepping down.
Yeah, and of course the U.S. has a very high stake in this entire situation since they are an ally and crucial asset against North Korea. Thank you so much for joining us this morning with your expertise. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.